Okay, my beauties, here we are on secant and cosecant graphs, page 2. And here's some basic rules. I know, it doesn't cover everything, but some basic ideas for how to draw the graph. If you're drawing a secant graph, the first thing you do is graph the corresponding cosine graph. If you're drawing a cosecant graph, the first thing you do is graph the corresponding sine graph. Okay. Anywhere they cross the midline, so the midline intercepts, there's going to be an asymptote. The period for secant and cosecant stays the same as it was for sine or cosine. So if the cosine had a period of 2 pi, the secant graph has a period of 2 pi. If the sine curve has a period of pi over 4, the cosecant graph has a period of pi over 4. Then the curves start at the maximums or minimums and approach the asymptotes. All right, and oh my gosh, my first graph, I realized I didn't actually draw the secant graph. Okay, so I'll add that in here. All right, so first thing I start out with is I switch this to cosine. So I'm going to graph 2 cosine x minus 1. So remember, this has an amplitude of 2. It has a midline of y equals -1. So there's my midline. Amplitude 2, cosine normally starts at 0, 1. But because of the amplitude, it's going to start at 0, 2. But because of the midline, it's just 2 above the midline. So here's our midline, so 2 above. So it hits, it goes 2 below, it hits, it goes 2 above. So it hits, it goes 2 below, it hits, it goes 2 above. So here we are starting at 0 and ending at 2 pi, because the period was 2 pi, there was nothing in front of the x. Okay. Everywhere we hit the midline, there is going to be an asymptote. Okay. So the equations for the asymptotes, well, this one's at pi over 2, and the distance between the asymptotes is pi, so x equals pi over 2 plus pi n. And now I'm going to draw, here we go, n. Sorry, this is really messy on here. That's why I like to draw it by hand first. All right, so there is the actual secant graph. So those blue curves are the secant graph. All right, and for the next one, this time we're going to draw cosecant of x minus pi. So first thing we want to do is graph sine of x minus pi. All right, so there's nothing in front of the x, so our period is going to be 2 pi. There's nothing in front of the sine, so our amplitude is 1. But because of this x minus pi, we're going to have to find our starting point and our ending point. So remember, we normally start at 0 and end at 2 pi. So I want to know, when does this equal 0 and when does this equal 2 pi? Okay, so now my starting point is x equals pi, and my ending point is x equals 3 pi. So I'm going to start at pi, and I'm going to end over here at 3 pi. So remember, sine curve goes up, hits, goes down, hits. So there's one period of our sine curve, and I'm just going to continue it back the other direction. All right, and then there was no plus d on the end, so notice our midline is the x-axis. Everywhere we hit the x-axis, we have an asymptote. And then I go to the maximum points and draw my curves going up. I go to my minimum points and I draw my curves going down. And the asymptotes, well, I'm just going to start at 0. Anytime I have an asymptote at 0, I like to use it. So x equals 0 plus, well, the distance between the asymptotes is pi. So 0 plus pi n, well, that's just x equals pi n. And this finishes page 2.